Good morning. Yesterday we had our final service at Castleton. We had recorded it, but unfortunately the microphone started playing up, so the sound didn't record. So I'm recording it this morning for those who would like to just listen in to what we talked about. The service is a little bit different to normal. Instead of the usual message, it's more a sort of where we've been, our life story. The way that the Lord has led us over the years that we've been together, Gwyneth and I, and I hope it'll be a little bit enlightening to you. I know that Castleton has changed a great deal since we joined. We think back to the people who were there right at the start in 2008, and so many of them have passed away or moved away, and there are a lot of new faces. And it struck us there are quite a lot of people who really don't know where we've been and what we've done, and how God has led us to where we are at this present moment. So let's make a start. It all began for me in this place. It's now a house. It's been converted, but when I was young, when I was 12 or even younger, it was the Gospel Hall in Skewin. And I was taken along there from the age of about 3 years of age. My aunt took me along to Sunday school every Sunday afternoon, and I grew up there. Week by week I would hear the stories, but it wasn't until I was 12 years of age that I realised that the message I was hearing each week had a personal impact, that I needed the Lord Jesus Christ, I needed to be saved. And that day, on the 14th of March 1965, I came to know the Lord Jesus Christ as my Saviour. From there on, I started going through teenage years until we come to the date March the 21st, 1970. It was very much a changing point for me, because that was the day that Gwyneth and I met. That's 53 years last Tuesday, so it was the sort of anniversary last week. And we got to know each other, decided that yes, we were going to be together for the rest of our lives, as the saying goes, and we got engaged. And when we got engaged, Gwyneth gave me a Bible, and on the flyleaf of the Bible there were these words written: "It is the Lord who goes before you. He will be with you. He will not fail you or forsake you. Do not fear or be dismayed." That's in Deuteronomy chapter 31, verse 8. And it's the words of the elderly Moses to the younger Joshua. I use those terms relatively because, yes, Moses was elderly at 120. Joshua was the young man, but he was 80 years old, so I don't know how young he really was, but he was going to take over the reins of being the leader of Israel. He was going to lead the people into the land of Egypt. When Gwyneth wrote those words on my Bible, I didn't realize just what an impact they were going to have on our lives, because that verse and the corresponding one in Joshua 1 verse 9, "Have I not commanded you, be strong and courageous, do not be afraid, do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." That verse especially was one that would come back to us time and time again. And often at times when we were at the crossroads in life, when we were in a place where we didn't know which way we were going to go or where God was leading us, and they came so many times as a reassurance that God was there and God was leading us. Well, the next step was getting married, and that took place 1973, October the 27th. You can see the picture here of Gwyneth with her bridesmaids. That's her 6 sisters. Now, you can imagine the culture shock it was for me. I was an only child. I grew up in a boys' environment. All my friends were boys, and for us, a good day out was down by the railway line, train spotting, riding bikes, playing football. Our pleasures were making model aircraft and all the sort of thing that boys used to do in those days. suddenly I was plunged into a world of prams and dolls and high chairs, and I had 6 younger sisters. But it was a good experience, and I loved seeing these younger girls grow up. And actually, we were with them just over the weekend, and it was a good time just being with them. They now, of course, grown up, they're grandmothers themselves, and the years have passed by. But I also learned what it was to be a big brother, and it was a great joy to go over to Neath and spend time with the littlest ones, to gather them around and tell some stories. And it was my first experience of storytelling. But the biggest impact of that family had on me, apart from Gwyneth, was my father-in-law. He was known as WJ. His name was William John Williams, and he was affectionately known to many as WJ. But the children in the church, he was Uncle John. And I spent many happy hours in the happy hour in Neath Gospel Hall watching my father-in-law in action. And he was the one who gave me the first taste of what it was to relate to children, telling stories, passing on the message to them. And he was an expert at it. He really was superb. And I cherish those days because it was my first steps in seeing the power of the story in reaching children. Well, Gwyneth and I settled down. The children arrived. They were both born to us when we were in Neath. And while I was in Neath, I joined HM Customs and Excise. I became a VAT inspector. Yeah, even as you say the words, it's got a certain grim chill to it. But I enjoyed the job immensely. I spent 26 years with C&E, and I was in a little office in Port Talbot, which was small but friendly. I had good workmates. But then in 1981, the news came that Port Talbot office was going to close. And the news also came that everyone there would be redeployed, and that was something none of us liked. We were all mobile grades, so we could be put anywhere in the country. And the talk was of being redeployed to London. That's what the need was. I didn't want to go there, not with a young family. And so we got out the map and we took Plan B. Plan B was that in the civil service you can apply for a sideways transfer. And we looked at all the places where there were offices and we applied. Together, Gwyneth and I looked at the map and we plotted out where would be good. We wanted somewhere which wasn't too far from the family, somewhere that had countryside around, somewhere where we could all be happy as a family. We tried some of the larger offices, Cardiff, Newport, we tried Pembroke, Bristol, Bath. We put in for a whole range of places. And on the form there was one place left at the bottom. And Gunnar said we might as well put something there. So we searched the C&D directory and we said, oh, there's a place there. It's a sub-office, but it's still a place. And it was here, in Crewe. Now, what has anyone heard about Crewe? If I were to ask you, I know what you'd say. I asked them yesterday in Castleton and the response was, it's got a railway station. And that's all anybody knows about Crewe. Well, this is Crewe High Street. It's a small town, a railway town. It's got a Lloyd's Bank and an Asda. But we knew nothing about it. And to us, this was a completely new venture. We didn't know anyone. We were going into a place where the accents were different, and we didn't know which way to go. But we actually were put in touch with somebody up in Crewe, Graham Price, and he took us along to a place, the Gospel Hall there. But before we went, this gentleman, who some of you may recognise, this is David Jones, Kilfrew. in Neath, affectionately known as the Admiral. He used to have an annual get-together to honour who they called Auntie Bell. It was her birthday, and it was a lot of the assembly in Neath went along, and a lot of friends, and we all sat in their living room. And Roma, his wife, would play the piano, and we'd all have a sing-song. He'd often have a speaker along, and he'd pass on a word. And that year, there was a speaker there, and for the life of me, I can't remember his name. But he came to us, knowing that we were moving, and he gave us that verse. Joshua 1 verse 9. The Lord goes before you. It was a wonderful encouragement. It was a blessing. And we went with that verse ringing in our ears. January the 8th, 82 was the date it all happened. I got my posting, and off we went to Crewe, and we made our home there, and we made our spiritual home here in the Bethany Gospel Hall, Lime Tree Avenue in Crewe. There were some very happy years. We spent 18 years there. I reflected the other day that from the day I was saved at 12 to when I moved to Crewe, I spent 18 years in Skewin. I also spent 18 years in Crewe. The time in Bethany were great days. The children's work flourished, the youth flourished. When we got there, we were the young people at the age of 30. When we left 18 years later, we were the oldies. And a lot of the rest of the fellowship were younger than us, which was wonderful. But the next move that was going to come was a far bigger one. It was to be right across 2 continents, to Asia, to Pakistan, to a place called Murray Christian School. Now, just to put you in the picture, we had been praying for probably 18 months. We felt that, yes, we were happy in Crewe, we were having a great time with the folk there. We enjoyed the family, we enjoyed the countryside, but we felt, is this what we want to do for the rest of our lives? Do I want to be a customs and excise officer? Did Gwyneth want to be a teacher for the rest of her life? And we started praying about full-time work, asking God where he wanted us to go, what he wanted us to do. And our thoughts were to go into full-time work somewhere in Britain. We didn't know where. We even thought about perhaps going to Africa, Zambia, somewhere like that, even to go to a school there. And then one day Gwyneth picked up a magazine, and a little slip fell out of it, an A5 flyer. And she says to this day that she knows she heard a voice saying, pick it up, look at it. And she picked it up, and it was for this place, Murray Christian School. So she came along and showed it to me, and I saw the word Pakistan, and my reaction was, not in a million years, never. I am not going to Pakistan, and that's final. You can't say that where God's concerned, because God had a plan. And it wasn't long after that we went to a mission conference in a nearby place, a place called Trent Vale in the Potteries. It was about 15 miles away, and they were holding a mission day conference. We seen the flyer, but we didn't look at who the speakers were, so we went along, and it was absolutely packed. We got there just as it was starting, and at the door, the person who was showing us to our seats, he said, not a lot of space left. There's one over there, and there's one over there, and there's one right in the middle. So we were there with our daughter Rachel, and we split up. We went 3 different ways, and I got the one in the middle, and it was right under the speaker's seat, right where he could look at me. And went through the first speaker, great, enjoyed it, and then the second speaker stood up. It was this gentleman. Now, I'm sorry, this is the only photo I could find of him. He's normally a very jolly person, but we caught him with a serious face there. His name is Dave Woods, originally from Glasgow in Scotland, a keen Rangers supporter, but he was working in, guess where? Murray Christian School in Pakistan. And as Dave started speaking and talked about the need for workers, I knew God was speaking to me. It was as if Dave was looking right at me, saying, we need you. Not them, not them, not the people behind you, you. And I knew then God was sending us to Pakistan. It was the last place I wanted to go. My only experience of Pakistanis at this point, and I know this may sound a little racist, was checking the books of the Pakistani taxi drivers in Stoke-on-Trent. And they were difficult. And there's nothing against Pakistanis. We made many wonderful Pakistani friends since, and still have friends. But I didn't want to go. But Gwen came over and she didn't have to say anything. I just nodded. Yeah, I know. And then, just in case we were in any doubt, our daughter came across. And not knowing that we were praying about full-time work, she turned to us and she said, Mum, Dad, God's going to send you there. And so we went. We left, we packed our bags, and we boarded a plane in Manchester Airport, PIA, Pakistan International Airways. I don't know if you've ever travelled PIA. If you have, well, it's an experience. But we went. And even as I was getting on the plane, my thoughts were still, Lord, are you sure about this? Is this really what I've got to do? But we went. We landed in Islamabad. Islamabad is the bottom left hand there of that long blue line. It's the capital of Pakistan. And we were met there by the boarding managers, Barry and Ann Locke from Australia. And we began the journey up to Murray. You can see the blue line. It's a long twisting one, 35 miles long, but it rises 7,000 feet up into the Himalayas. And the road, it's got a lot of sharp bends and a lot of very sharp drops and a lot of crazy drivers. It was an experience. And all the way up, as I watched cars flashing past and cars overtaking us on bends, I kept muttering, Lord, are you sure? Are you sure? We got to the top and we were met by deep snow. The last mile I walked in front of the pickup, shovel in hand, to dig us out of the worst drifts. Lord, are you sure? But we got there. This photo was taken in the summer. It's an old photo, but black and white, but it's really quite a welcoming place. But when we got there, it was very cold. It was bitterly cold. And we spent 3 weeks getting the place ready, getting our department ready. Our department was right on the left, behind the trees on the 3rd floor. And sorry, it's 3rd floor American, 2nd floor British, you know what I mean. We were just walking around like Michelin men with about 10 layers of clothing on, trying to keep warm. And then the weather broke and spring came and it was glorious, and with it the children came, and the children were even more glorious. These are them. We were house parents to 19 little kids, 6 to 9 year olds. 5 girls, 14 boys. And Gwen said, I look after the girls. Thanks, dear. But we had a wonderful time. The children were marvellous. And we got to know them and their families so well. They came from all over the place. Korea, Pakistan, Australia, New Zealand, Spain, Britain, Ireland, Germany, USA, Canada, you name it, we had the nationality there. But we had a wonderful time. And it took me just a very short few weeks to realise, yes, thank you, Lord. This is where you want me to be, and this is where I want to be. And as I reflected at that time that I'd been 18 years in Skewin and 18 years in Crewe, yeah, perhaps 18 years here wouldn't be so bad. We had a 3-year visa, and after 2 years we started getting ready to renew the visa. Actually, we started doing it about 18 months in. It takes time to get a visa. And we started thinking about staying on and making this a long-term project. We got to know the area well. This is Jigadip Gully, little village nearby. We went there to get our fruit and veg. You would get 2 carrier bags for 100 rupees. That's about £1. It was wonderful because it was all fresh. It was straight off the trees almost. Murray itself was a little ride. You can get there by car or you can take public transport. Public transport's interesting. If you can fit another one on, get on. We got to know this place. This is the Almeida restaurant. The children loved it. They did a wonderful chicken tikka. We could get dal roti for a couple of rupees. But the great thing about the Almeida, which by the way had the nickname the cockroach, we won't go into that, but from the top balcony you had this view. It was magnificent. We were up in the Himalayas and looking out over the valley. It was truly beautiful. And I remember sitting there. It was in the August of 2001. We'd taken the children out for an evening meal, as they called it, and we were looking out over the valley, and the clouds gathered and the monsoon was around, and suddenly we were caught in the most incredible deluge. I got lots of stories, I could bore you with them all, but I really felt this was the place. But then in August, I used to go for language lessons just in August. I thought, if I'm staying here, I need to speak the language. So I started learning the language. Oh, it was difficult. I'm not a linguist, but I struggled through. But the day in question, it had been a bad day. I'd got everything wrong. I was supposed to say mekahanahu, which means I'm eating. I said megutahu, which means I am a dog. My instructor thought it very funny, but I was feeling dejected. The language school was up in Murray itself, which was a good 10 minutes drive. And we had a little car, and I was walking up to where the car was. And the rains were still around, and I looked over the valley, and it's very much like the one you can see there. A photo doesn't do it justice. But I looked out and saw the rain clouds and heard the thunder in the distance and saw the beauty of the valley below me. And I just stood there in awe, in wonder at the greatness of what God has made. And I just stood there and bowed my head and said, Lord, maker of all things, thank you for bringing me here. I can trust you. I surrender to you. Lead me where you want. That was in August. In September, this happened. Yeah, we all remember September the 11th. We all remember that dreadful attack. We watched it on the television in the school. It was 6 in the evening there. And we didn't realise what it was going to mean to us. But the following day we began to realise, as the American embassy instructed all the Americans to leave for home. Pakistan was a dangerous place. Then the Australians went, then the Germans, and finally word came through from the High Commission, British, go home. And we were escorted down to Islamabad with armed guards for protection. And we left with just one suitcase. And as I got on the plane, I was heartbroken. And I was saying, Lord, why? Why? And the Lord reminded me of my words. Lord, I surrender to you. And the words came to me, the Lord goes before you. He will be with you. He will not fail you. So we ended up back in Britain. But actually the timing was impeccable, because we got home to find that my mum had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And then just a few months later, she was diagnosed with cancer. It was a rapid, fast-acting cancer, and she passed away the following May. I was so glad I was home for those few months, to spend those last few months with her, and to see her once again. The Lord was good. But then we were still back home in Britain, back in Swansea, and we had no job, we had no home, we had no work, we had nothing to do. I was bored, and it was the worst year of my life, because I didn't know which way we were going. Time went by. I started doing schools work. First time I'd done schools work. I'd worked with children in the church a lot, but I'd never done schools. And schools work started to be a new experience for me. It was good, and I was enjoying it. We still had thoughts to go back to Pakistan. And come August 2005, we began to start putting out feelers for flights back to Pakistan. And on August the 5th, 2005, I'd actually phoned up our travel agent and said, can you book us in for something? He said, I'll look and see what we've got. I put the phone down and it rang. I picked the phone up. It was staff in Echoes to tell me that the school in Pakistan had reopened, but that it had been attacked by gunmen, and 6 people had been killed. The news made the BBC. It was a devastating blow to us. The 6 that were killed were all Pakistani workers. But it meant the school closed once again, and there was nowhere for us to go back to. So we realized that God was closing a door, and we knew that we were staying in Britain, so we went back to what we'd thought some years previously. And although we'd only spent 18 months, not 18 years, in Pakistan, they were very precious months. They were formative in many ways. We learnt so much. We came into contact with a person who became a very dear friend after that, somebody called Dave Stevens and his wife Kay. They lived in Limerick in Ireland, and we were on a conference together, and he said, well, why don't you come across to Ireland and spend a couple of weeks with us? So we did. We went across to Limerick and had 2 glorious weeks in Western Ireland. And Dave told me about the work he did in open airs, sketchboarding. And he told me about something called Bible Explorer. And suddenly I was captivated. I thought, yeah, this is good. And I went and trained for it. Now at the time we were living in a little place called Cummer. And I had contacts in some of the schools, but I thought, let's widen this. So we widened the scope, and within a couple of years I was doing Bible Explorer and assemblies in 18 schools in the Avon Valley and the Llinvi Valley, the one next to it. And we had some amazing times doing BX. Now BX is the Bible in 10 hours. You teach the children in fast-moving, interactive lessons. And this is the Old Testament program. Each one is a 1 hour lesson taken each week. And then there's another 5 for the New Testament. And we had some great times doing BX. But again, God was ruffling the nest, as it were. Although we were doing schools and doing assemblies in BX, and we had Postal Bible School running with 200 plus pupils, we still were thinking, does God want something else? And then somebody came up to me, said to both of us actually, Steve, do you know anyone who'd be willing to come along and give us a hand in our assembly? That person was John Gordon. I said, John, I don't, I'm afraid. But God kept nudging and prodding. And my reaction was, Lord, do you mean me? Do you want me to do that? Do you want us to go? And we did. We went. And the words, as an eagle stirs up its nest, hovering over its young, spreading out its wings, taking them up, carrying them on its wings, so the Lord alone led him. That came to my mind. And it was as if God was making us uncomfortable in Cummer and saying, go on, I've got something else for you. And so it was literally back to Swansea, 2008. 1st of January 2008, we joined Castleton Chapel, or at least Gwyneth did. I was in hospital. I had gallstones. I joined the following week. And the rest, as you say, is history. Oh, by the way, it's come to an end, but we're not losing track of you completely. I was 18 years in Skewin, 18 years in Crewe, 18 months in Murray, and 18 years in Castleton, and they've been very happy years. Thank you all for what you've made them for us. But you know, finding our way in life is always a problem. For us, we had this verse which kept coming up time and time again. Whenever there was a decision, somehow, whether it was read in a meeting or in a daily reading, this verse came up. The Lord goes before you. Finding our way can be a problem. To find our way on the road, we have maps, A to Z maps. Remember those? Ordnance Survey, I used those a lot in Customs and Excise. Or the Michelin maps for getting around France. We use that a lot as well. Today, of course, we have Google Maps. You key it in and off you go. In 100 yards, turn left. They're very useful. But what about finding our way in life? Finding your way in life. Let's come back to that verse. The Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. It's a powerful verse. I don't know if you've heard of What 3 Words. It's an app you can get on your phone. That's the 3 words for Castleton Chapel. You put that into What 3 Words, it'll show you what Castleton Chapel is. It's an amazing app. Can I give you 3 words in walking with God? Possessing, trusting, following. To use a map, you have to possess it. You can't use it when it's on the shelf in the shop. To use Google Maps, you have to have a phone with the app on it. It's no good leaving it at home. It has to be in your hand. You have to possess it. To walk with God, you have to possess God. Or He has to possess you. You need to be His. You need to know Him as Saviour. That happened to me way back in Skewin when I was 12. But then you have to trust. With Google Maps, if it says in 100 yards, turn right, you have to have faith that Google Maps knows what it's talking about. That the program is right. That it's accurate. I had to trust God. I had my doubts. Getting on the plane at Manchester, Lord, are you sure? Is this the path? But it was. You have to trust. And then after trusting, you have to follow. When He says, you have to obey. Remember the words of Mary to the people in the wedding feast. Whatever he says to you, do it. Can I leave those 3 words with you? And I hope my little précis of our life, Gwyneth and I, might have been a blessing to you. And can I ask you to take that verse for yourself? The Lord, he goes before you. He will not fail you, nor forsake you. Do not be afraid. May God bless you.